racial bias. So this is in the Hill. This just came out. President Trump has repealed auto lending guidance from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, revoking a rule that was put in place to protect minority customers from predatory practices. So that is no longer. Trump's signature on a congressional resolution erases the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau of 2013 guidance targeting dealer markups. The additional interest that is added to a customer's third-party auto loan as compensation for the dealer. The president signed the resolution in a private White House signing ceremony. Auto dealers, banks, and their allies in Congress said that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is abbreviated CFPB policy, was an unfair and unfounded attack on an essential and harmless financing tool. The move caps off an unprecedented use of congressional power, as lawmakers had never before passed such a resolution to revoke informal guidance from a federal agency. Republicans and a small group of Democrats voted to repeal the CFPB guidance under what is known as a Congressional Review Act, which is abbreviated CRA. That law allows a simple majority of lawmakers in the House and Senate to vote to repeal a federal rule. It also bans the agency from replacing a rule with a similar measure in the future. So it also bans this type of thing in the future as well. So the resolution cleared the House earlier this month after clearing the Senate in April, while Congress has used the CRA to repeal more than a dozen Obama-era federal rules since 2017. Let me recite that again and read that again. While Congress has used the CRA, which is the Congressional Review Act, to repeal more than a dozen Obama-era federal rules since 2017. This is the first time that lawmakers have successfully overturned guidance from a federal agency that had not been finalized as a formal regulation. So this was abbreviated. It's called Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is CFPB. It says that it took aim at dealer markups in 2013 under former director Richard Cordray. The CFPB warned auto dealers that the use of markups on third-party loans could lead to a lawsuit from the agency under anti-lending discrimination laws. The CFPB and fair lending advocates have pointed to several studies, including one that was conducted by the Bureau, that found racial disparities in dealer markups. Those studies found that minority customers often paid higher dealer markups than white customers with similar credit profiles. While the 2013 guidance was not a formal rule, the CFPB used the policy to launch a slew of lawsuits against automakers and lenders it said violated fair credit laws with discriminatory markups. The CFPB and Justice Department sued Ally Financial in December of 2013 for close to $100 million in fines and damages, and also sued Honda and Toyota for tens of millions of dollars over similar charges. Opponents of the rule questioned the methodology behind the studies that showed discriminatory markups and accused the CFPB of exploiting a loophole to circumvent its lack of jurisdiction over the auto industry. House Financial Services Committee Chairman Jeb Hensarling, which is a Republican of Texas, who attended the signing ceremony, praised the hard work of Republicans in Congress to stop a rogue bureau using its unchecked powers to sidestep due process and harm the very consumers it is charged with protecting. The CFPB policy seemed immune from repeal until last December when the Government Auto Accountability Office ruled that informal agency guidance could be repealed under the review law as it were a formal rule. Senate Pat Toomey, Republican, who requested the analysis, introduced a resolution to repeal the auto lending guidance soon after. Acting CFPB Director Mick Mulvaney, in a statement, praised Trump and allowed the lawmakers for repealing the auto guidance and said that the Bureau would consider submitting other similar policies for congressional review. The repeal of the guidance is the second Republican reversal of a key Cordray era CFPB policy under the CRA. Trump signed a resolution last November that repealed the Bureau's rule on forced arbitration issued in July 2017. The rule had banned banks and credit card companies from forcing their customers into arbitration agreements that prevent those customers from joining class action lawsuits. So all this is happening when people are not really paying attention. They're not looking at how it could possibly affect them. And so the CFPB was formerly known as the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which protected people who were minorities, who were targeted in racial bias due to auto loans and markups, dealer markups. And so it specifically states here that the CFPB took aim at dealer markups in 2013 under former director Richard Cordray, and it warned auto dealers that the use of markups on third-party loans could lead to a lawsuit from the agency under anti-lending discrimination laws. So a lot of these things, too, while Congress has used the CRA to repeal more than a dozen Obama-era federal rules since 2017, this is the first time that lawmakers have successfully overturned guidance from the federal agency that had not been finalized as a formal regulation. And so the CRA is Congressional Review Act. And again, that is something important that people might want to know. So it's pretty much an open situation now. You know, if you go to purchase a vehicle, these things that once protected people who are minorities are no longer in place. And so it's pretty much fair game. So I just thought this was an important article because there's so many changes that are made overnight. Some of these changes have been made without people even really reading about it. They don't even know. And so they don't know until they are in a position where they go to purchase a vehicle. And most people will have to get some type of auto loan or be approved for one in order to purchase like a fairly new vehicle. And then you'll find out that all these protections that once were are no longer. And so I just thought this was important because there's so many different things that have been changing dramatically, and people are not really focused on them because maybe you're not in the situation where you're looking to buy a car or anything. And so you don't feel it really, you don't feel the effects of it until you're in this predicament. And then you realize, you know, what was once a protection is no longer a protection anymore. So you don't have the protection of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It's been revoked. And so you're just going to have to be really savvy. You're going to have to be really careful about where you purchase your car. And you're going to have to probably talk to people who are in the business of car buying, what is fair and what is not fair, and what to look for, signs of things that might not be a good purchase or you might be taken advantage of. And so that's the possibility. And some people are taken advantage of. And so you have to really do your homework when you're purchasing cars now, because you no longer have these protections. These have been pretty much done away with. And most of the things that were put in place to protect people of color or people who are of low income are no longer. They're being repealed, they're being closed up, or they're being done away with, or they're not really focusing on those as much. And if they are, they're doing quick fixes, or they're doing something temporary, or they're doing something where, you know, it'll help a certain amount of people and other people are left in limbo. And we know what those different policies are. And I won't even go into them. The auto loan policy is just but one of many things that have been changing in this administration that we're in now. And so this is why I have said in previous videos, I know some people take it offensively because they think it's coming from me. And it is coming from me in terms of reading it from someone else. It's really coming from someone else. And this is where it's coming from. Let's just be honest. It's coming from this administration. It's coming from all these new rules and these new laws. And that's where it's coming from. And to target just regular people who are reading some of the new changes is not going to make your situation better. Basically, what's happening is people, if they're talking about these issues, is that they realize the changes are being made and they're voicing opinions and they're bringing out the issues as they are happening today. And you can't get mad at people because they are basically reading what is being put in place. These are not rules that I put in place. These are rules that government has put in place, or that Trump is signing different things, different laws into effect. Things that weren't before are happening now. A lot of things that people were not really feeling like it doesn't affect me, they're feeling now the effects of what's going on. It's not something that's coming from me to get mad at me and leave mean comments because of what this administration is doing is not going to help you. And so I'm just letting some of those people know. I don't think they realize, and I have said this before, I didn't vote for him, but I know some of those people who are mad that now it affects them. Some of them might have voted for him. And so this is what you get. And so with that being said, I'm going to leave this. You can read it. It's in the Hill and it just came out and it's on Yahoo. It's all over. And so these are laws and things that are policies that are being put in place that people are unaware of. And some people are now being made aware of it. They're now realizing, coming to the realization that, yeah, the people who we thought were against us weren't the ones who were against us. The ones who were against us are the ones that employ us and that were telling us to go against other folks, other minorities, when those people don't even have power like that. And so we've been, bitching and moaning about what another minority is doing. And the very people who are the ones we needed to be going against are the ones they're basically calling the shots. They're basically using their power of the pen and with the stroke of a pen, changing things that can make someone else's life a living hell. And it's been happening in a lot of ways, more ways than just auto lending. So I'm just putting it out there. So for those of you who have been angered and have been frustrated by a lot of things that aren't happening or are happening that are affecting you, well, just be honest. Where is it coming from? Where is it coming from? And a lot of this anger and a lot of the things that you see coming from are coming from the change in I really will be honest to say I believe it's coming from this administration ever since 2016 November, when people started voting for the presidents and changing rules and changing laws, and then all this hacking of the votes and all the controversy, and now we've got this administration. You've seen all of the rallies even before they voted, you know all the anger and all of the people that you thought were non-existent. It was in the history books. I heard about the hate groups and the KKK groups and all of these groups, and now they have surfaced from everywhere, from out of everywhere. And now people realize that these groups are not non-existent. They're existent, and they've evolved into young people who are part of these groups and who are targeting individuals. And you see a new story or a new development every day. And so I believe that's where all of this frustration is coming from. You can't blame it on one minority group. You can't blame it on one individual or one gender of someone. It's this administration that has brought out some of the real personalities that people never thought would come about. They've emboldened people to feel like we can be mean, we can be racial, we can be hateful, we can say these things and get away with it and not have to face any consequences. We can be exonerated for killing people because of the color of their skin. We can repeal and change rules because we're in power and we have the means of doing so. We have control, full control over people's lives, and we can also ruin people's lives. And so, with that being said, I'm going to leave this video. Like, comment, subscribe, and that's pretty much the way this is going. And I don't see anywhere where it's stopping. At some point, I do believe that this stuff won't last. It won't last. It's a season we're going through. And eventually it'll come to a screeching halt. And something big is going to result out of all of this that's been going on. Like, comment, subscribe, and thanks for listening.